Welcome to West of Tulsa. I'm CJ Ward. We're broadcasting from Ventura, California. We have a very interesting show for you today. I'm going to introduce the crew that's here. Dan.
Hey, I'm here.
Controls.
I am here.
Gabe is back. Helm is not
left.
here. Beth is not here, but
Come on.
I know.
No Helm, no
I know.
Beth.
Boo.
It's become the story lately.
No
hasn't
Helm,
it?
no
Yeah,
Beth?
yeah.
No Helm, no Beth.
It's
First of all,
time to go home.
happy birthday, Steve.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I
buddy.
thought I was going to sneak in.
Nah,
sneak
man.
out any of this.
Nah. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Steve.
I won't ask how old you are. I won't ask.
No need to.
Yeah, exactly. We don't. No one
It's
cares.
just a number, man.
It's just an age, ain't nothing but a number.
Just a number.
In case you haven't seen
got a
one of our
hunch
early
there.
shows, Steve is a return guest.
Yeah. He's one of the
Steve
OGs.
Feist. Yep.
OGs.
Yep. We'll have Steve talk more about his background here in a bit. But we'll reintroduce you to Steve Feist. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Joining Steve, Rick Rojas joining us today. Welcome
Thank you.
to the West of Tulsa show.
Thank you.
So the first time Rick and I met was maybe a month ago at the Hot Rod Forum we had in Santa Barbara at the Museum of Natural History. And you found that really, we'll get into your background here in a second, but we'll talk about the Hot Rod show because you found that really interesting. You're kind of a couple generations separated from the guys that were on the stage that night. Most of them are probably in their 70s or 80s, but you knew them.
Yeah, they've known me since I was a little kid. Most of those guys.
Because of your dad, right?
Yeah.
Give us a little history background.
Well, my dad was actually in a car club with most of those guys called Oldies with Goodies. And so that's how I met all those guys because back in the day, my dad knew him from being in the club. So when we go to car shows years later, when I was a little kid, we'd see them all at shows and hang out and talk and stuff. And I just thought they were, just some guys. But as I got older and into hot rods more and more, like more into like traditional hot rods, start talking to these guys and hearing stuff they did, and I'm like, whoa.
They're not just regular guys.
Yeah, and then you go to shows like, in SoCal, or you go to El Mirage, and then you find out that like, whoa, Santa Barbara's like super respected in the land speed world. And it's like all these guys you thought were just cool guys, they're like doing some stuff that's hard to do,
So when you looked on that stage that night, it was probably pretty impressive to see all those guys together.
It was just cool to see them getting some recognition because everyone up there is like a hero. They've all done some crazy stuff, and they're all still doing crazy stuff,
Yeah, one of them. Who was the one? Was it Arlie?
Arlie.
Langlow?
Yeah.
Yeah, at almost 80.
And
He's
so
doing 300 miles an hour.
and they're going for a record against a car that's built by the best of the best. And, the driver just shows up to drive.
Yeah.
Arlie drives the semi and everything to Bonneville and unloads and they got a small crew, and they're just doing a killer job for what they have,
It seems like all those guys, from the pictures at least I saw, like back in the day, even till now, they still have small crews and they wrench on their cars or they tow their cars or whatever. And they probably could afford maybe a bigger crew, but they don't. That's not how they roll, right? I mean, it seems like that's the way they do things.
I don't know what the decision is to be like that, but I know what Arlie and those guys have, how many guys they have, and what they're pulling off is pretty amazing. I mean, that car has been the fastest car at El Mirage a bunch of times when they have meets, and it was doing pretty good at Bonneville. It had a tire blowout, which is crazy. If you can look up the footage on YouTube sometime, there's in-car footage of Arlie driving this thing where the tire blows out at like over 300, and he's calm and cool, just, going down, getting it, stopped.
Back under control.
No panic or nothing, just all calm and cool.
gosh.
Like, so, yeah.
It was great to hear the stories that night.
Yeah.
Now, you made a comment to Gabe. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole reason that I wanted to bring you and Steve on the show is, your guys' reactions, because we had no perspective. We thought it was cool, but we're also producing the show. And then you guys, we asked you how you felt afterwards, and you said something that just stuck with me, which was the last time you saw all these guys together was at someone's funeral, which was like just...
It was the week before, yeah.
That's crazy.
And prior to that, it was another memorial at Seth's shop. So it's like, it's a bummer to only see them like that. I mean, to see them get up on stage and do that, your show was pretty cool.
Yeah, and even Dana, when he was trying to produce this, put this show together, this gathering together, when he originally thought it, till when we were actually able to do it, someone did pass away that he originally wanted to have on that panel. So I was like, okay, we got to get this thing going.
Well,
it was probably Jack Chard, whose funeral we were at, because I called him our hot rod mayor. He knew everybody. He was in the Dusters. Started it. He's the one that was one of the founding members of Oldies with Goodies, and he owned like probably more cars than Steve will. Like just
what?
Yeah, like you could go to a show with Jack, and you'd be like, oh yeah, I had that car and I sold it there, and like old famous race cars that are in museums. Oh yeah, I had that for a little bit on the side of my house, and just Jack was like the ultimate like hot rod dude. And we lost him, and his funeral was the Friday before your show.
Wow.
And not only that, everyone was kind of worried about Lee, because Lee showed up at Jack's funeral last minute because he had just lost his wife. I don't know if you guys knew that.
No, I knew that, yeah.
But Lee, just lost his wife. So for him to go up there and still do your show was pretty cool of him too,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in fact, we even had kind of a backup plan if Lee didn't show up.
Yeah,
because
we could understand,
totally.
You lose your wife, but it seemed like, it's like he had to do this because he knew how special this moment was going to be.
That's the thing about Lee. And
we're referring to Lee Hammock, just so everybody knows.
Lee Hammock,
Lee Hammock.
I wanted to ask you both of you, because you were both there. You were there, right, Steve? Yeah.
I think so.
You were there in body, at least. Oh, yeah. You heard my voice.
No, he was there to kick your ass.
my rich bass voice. What was your guys' impression? I mean, your emotional connection to what happened on stage. I mean, it seemed like it was a pretty special night. There was definitely like electricity in the air and so on. What did you guys think of it?
Oh, I thought it was awesome. It was good.
Yeah, it was very educating for me. Ricky knows a lot more. He knows a ton more about the whole history of Santa Barbara than I do, by all means. So it was like I was just kind of trying to suck it all in and just, stay with the conversations and stuff. And so it was cool. It was very interesting, very educating on as far as like, okay, well, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know this track was there. I didn't know they did this. I didn't know they did that. Blah, 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 blah.
The impression I walked away from the whole thing, because I'm a gun guy, so I used to actually run the glass factory up in Santa Barbara, the cleanup, and I took out. I'm very proud of the fact that me and my group, we removed 172 tons of garbage over 4 years from the glass factory. But it kind of reminded me of that, of like it's something really cool that was there that no longer exists, all these tracks.
Yep.
And like drag racing out at the airport and the Thunderdome and all that. That was just like, man, I love that stuff. It's like...
Yeah, and the thing that caught me off guard was a lot of this stuff that they were talking about, like you can't Google this stuff. Like there's not that stuff that's available
no
on
one
Google.
knows, right.
No.
So that was the part to me that was trippy. It's like, this is information that literally no one knows about unless you're in the know, basically. Or in the
plus,
area.
even people in the know didn't know. I used to argue with my friends all the time. Santa Barbara had a drag strip at Goleta Drags, and then they did it before Wally Parks or all these other guys, and finally I didn't get like people taking me serious until the Rotters Journal did a magazine article on the Goleta Drags. They used a lot of Jack Chard's photos, and they used a lot of Lee Hammock's photos, and I think they got all the info from Lee and Jack about it. But like so many people. You'd never guess it now if you went to Santa Barbara that the hot rod scene was that big,
Yeah.
Yeah, the Central Coast was like a hotbed of like racing and car activity. It was kind of amazing.
Which was a surprise for me because I thought it was all, because I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I thought everything was San Fernando Valley, Road Kings, but that obviously wasn't the case, which is what got me interested in. Like, whoa, there's somebody before that.
And there were a lot of stories that night. And we should just fill in for our listeners and viewers that this is a special that we worked on, I don't know, for a couple months. And we held it about a month ago. This was, beginning of June.
June.
Beginning of June. We're working on a special. So this is coming. We haven't aired it yet. But it was 11 hot rod legends all on the same stage. and we just had them up there telling stories. And so that's what we're referring to here. So we didn't really set it up well enough, but
we're not professionals.
Good context. Good context, CJ.
So that is coming. You will get the chance to see and hear from these guys because we're working on the special. But one of the things that night that really struck me were the stories, not just between the guys, and how they all knew each other, but there were stories that I don't know. I didn't know about them. And I don't think a lot of the people in that audience knew about these stories. I mean, we're talking about the beginnings of, NHRA and for me, it was just eye-opening. Too. Yeah, there were times I had to stop and go, whoa, okay, get focused again because you're hosting this thing. Because I was getting so into the conversations about what they were saying. It was a fun night, and I'm glad you loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say, seeing that picture, that one picture that's in the book of the guys with all their bomber jackets. Like, these are real bomber jackets. These are guys that were just dropping bombs over Germany like 2 years ago. And they're out there like, hot rodding and like building a first dragster. It's just like, that's pretty epic when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And speaking about buddies, I've been meaning to ask, how do you guys meet, or how did you guys know each other?
Just through probably Frank, through a mutual friend.
A friend of mine, Frank, is friends with his dad, and so I think I met his dad first. Well, I know I met his dad first and stuff, and then Frank had hit me up one time, and so I got a hold of him, and he came down and we talked and met, and so we've been friends ever since. And I know that he's kind of in. He does all kinds of different stuff with cars, which he'll tell you. I'm more muscle car stuff. He's more like the older stuff. So he's got a lot of knowledge on a lot of the older cars, and he can, just like right now, we were out in the shop and he was telling me all about the 49. Well, I knew nothing about it, so it was cool. It was educating.
You bought it though.
Yeah. There we go. You would have too.
Speaking of buying things, we're gonna have to talk about something that Steve just bought recently. We'll get to that later.
Boy, that's a tease. That's a TV tease right there.
Yeah. Hook everybody into stay on later on with the show. And what caught me off guard too is that when Steve told me he was coming, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring my friend Ricky up." I'm like, "Cool, right on. We'll see you guys at the show." And you show up, and I saw you, and I was like, "Wow, you're way younger than I was expecting. I was expecting some old coot from Santa Barbara that Steve knew, But you're not just young, but you're very young. So, and you're into the even older stuff than what Steve's into. What is it about the older stuff that really drives you, especially as a younger guy, compared to everybody you're around?
Well, American Graffiti. You watch that movie and you see that yellow Deuce Coupe, and I wanted one ever since. And when I'd go to shows at the time growing up, my dad always had Z28s and Camaros and stuff. So we'd go to all the shows, but all the early Ford stuff kind of drew me in, and we'd see Lee and Jack. And I like them all, but the early Fords are like, not so much now, but before you couldn't just go like to a catalog and buy car parts, and you had to get brakes from a 40 Ford and get an overdrive from this and build a car. And I thought that was cool because you'd see, if you ever see restored hot rods that are perfectly restored how they were, there's aircraft parts in there for military surplus. And I just thought the building part of it was pretty cool, So are you more attracted to the hot rodding part of it or the actual the physical cars? I mean, you saw American Graffiti, but that wasn't a stock Deuce Coupe, right? Yeah. No, I like hot rods.
Yeah.
They have to look good too, though. But
for sure.
You can't have a slow hot rod. It has to be fast.
All right, I got to ask you, Ricky, how old are you?
Take a guess.
32.
Oh, man, that's awesome. No, I'm actually 46.
Whoa.
Okay.
Dang.
You were young looking 46.
You're aging well, dude.
Thanks.
You put
It's
2050 on your face to keep it young? Is that what?
I can't tell you.
It's a secret.
It's funny because most car guys look older than they are because they're car guys.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Why is he looking at you?
Oh, is he referring to the gray beard? Is that what you- okay.
Yeah, Steve's actually 102.
I look pretty damn good then, don't I?
That's a transmission fluid catcher, Steve.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's everything catcher,
Yeah.
food catcher. I
Yeah.
go back for seconds later.
Oh, man. I would imagine your dad had a lot to do with your
yeah.
love for what you love now.
Yeah, my dad and my uncle growing up, and they both. I always look back. So back when they were doing stuff in high school and stuff, they didn't have iPhones to take pictures. So there's just a handful of pictures of their cars, and I look back at some of the stuff they did, and I'm like, man, that's awesome. And the stuff they got to do, plus the cars that were in Santa Barbara in their era, like, 71, 72, 73, like street racing, from what I gather, was pretty heavy in Santa Barbara on Cabrillo Boulevard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Right on the beach.
yeah.
Right on the beach.
Wow.
because there was
Wow.
nothing there but like boat like yards and stuff like that. And my dad and my uncle built a 57 Chevy that was it was labeled, he lettered it Montezuma's Revenge, and it was a total street race thing that they never would tell me things, but I would hear stories from people all over town. I go get tires in the tire shop and he'd recognize my name. Oh, that's your dad? Montezuma's Revenge. And he'd tell me some crazy story about the car.
wow.
Even recently, when I first started working for the city, one of the old guys there, he's all, hey, are you related to Rob? And I'm like, oh, that's my uncle. And he's like, man, what happened to Montezuma's Revenge? And I'm like, oh, man. And he was a couple years younger. My coworker was like 4 years younger than my dad and my uncle, but he said his older brother would go to Cabrillo to these street races.
Wow.
And they would always the next day be talking about, oh, Montezuma's Revenge. Did you see it do this and that? And so him and his buddies, they always heard about this car. They went to go find it on their bicycles from the west side of Santa Barbara. My grandparents lived on the Mesa. And they went riding around town on their bicycles on the Mesa, and they found my dad and my uncle working on the car, and they just stood back, watched for like an hour. He said it was the coolest thing.
That's badass.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, and that just happened, 2 years ago when I first started working for the city.
Wow.
He told me that.
And
So
where is the car? Do you know?
my uncle sold it a long time ago, and I tried to track it down forever, and I've been gathering parts to build a clone of the car, like the exact wheels, the exact engine intake, trans, seats. So I just need to find the right car, someday.
Steve might have one around. You might be able
Oh, he's got like 3.
I'm curious, Rick. We've all been to Mexico. We know what Montezuma's Revenge is. Like what's the story there? Do
Maybe
you know
some
the
people don't
story?
know what Montezuma's Revenge is.
Yeah.
Can you explain what Montezuma's
boy.
Revenge is?
It's gastrointestinal distress from various flora and fauna in the water supply.
He sounds like
getting
my
into your
GP.
gut.
doesn't he?
Right?
That's a great way to say shitting your pants.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Break this down.
So is there any story behind? Was it just being a smart?
Just my crazy uncle.
It's like a smart ass.
Yeah,
thing,
just
right?
my crazy uncle.
Montezuma's Revenge. I like
Yep.
it.
Maybe that car will make you shit your pants.
Maybe
And,
might scare the shit out of you, literally, right?
Maybe that's what happened
and
the
if
first
you-
time he drove it.
Yeah, and the first, like the way he spelled it how it's actually spelled in the history books and stuff, but it's not spelled how you pronounce it. So he's like, oh, people all the time used to tell me I misspelled it, but
Wow.
it's pretty funny.
You mean the Montezuma part? I
Yeah.
mean, revenge is revenge, right?
Yeah, the Montezuma part is
okay.
it's spelled MOC.
Oh, like an Aztec translation or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no history lesson there.
Yeah. I knew there had to be an
Steve,
interesting
did
story.
you know
behind
about
it.
this car when you were a kid? Or?
No.
Okay.
No.
So
No.
what was Santa Barbara and Ventura, was it kind of like, they really didn't talk too much to each other? They weren't really, you're not that far away, but
Yeah,
you know.
I really couldn't tell you at that point. I mean, that'd be some questions for like one of the older street racers around here or something.
yeah.
I had heard as I got older. Obviously, I heard. I'd say back 20s, 30s, and stuff. I heard that there was some fast cars up in Santa Barbara and stuff, just like there was down here.
Mm-hmm.
But you're just kind of tucked down here. They're up there. You don't really. Back when I was doing a lot of street racing, or trying to, or at least around it, I should say, more than anything. if you were going to go anywhere, it was usually you'd head down south. Like, I remember there was a road up in Thousand Oaks next to the freeway, or a lot of street races used to get lit off. I know there was plenty of places in San Fernando Valley. There was a lot of street racing going on. As a matter of fact, I always wanted, when I was younger, I was like, man, I would love to go down there, because I heard people got real down there in the valley. But even here in Ventura, I mean, there was like all the roads, I mean, there was 5th and Rice. That was the heavy spot right there. That was where you really went. There's Rosen Central. There was Laguna, which is way out in Camarillo, out in the fields and stuff. Those were like the 3 places. Las Posas, right down here. That was a heavy street race.
Wow, they raced on Las Posas.
Yeah. There was a lot of street races got lit off in Las Posas. So those would be like the main places that you would hear, and everybody, back in the day, you would meet out. There was a park and ride out off of the side of the freeway in Camarillo. It was off of Las Posas. I think there still is a park.
It's still
and ride
there.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody would meet there, and it was funny because sometimes you'd be there, and here comes trucks with trailers with cars on them, and they would unload in the parking lot. It got real out there. I mean, there was I'd say there's a good handful of 9 and 10 second cars out there.
What time period was this when this was
This
going
was
on?
probably back when I was doing it back in the 80s.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Maybe in the
That recently.
earlier 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I know Las Posas, they were running cars still there, because I may have gone out there in the late 90s.
I may have.
Yeah.
In Mexico.
Las Posas, Mexico.
Yeah.
Yes.
Camarillo, Mexico.
Yeah. Was being from Ventura, was it like Ventura, we were faster than Santa Barbara, or was it ever kind of like a regional kind of?
You didn't really hear that much, at least when I was around it. It was just this guy was from this town, he had a fast car. This guy was from over here, he had a fast car type of thing. So it was cool. I can tell you a really funny story. There was a guy named Jim Fox, another guy named Vern DeCoste, and they were Ford guys, Ricky. So you didn't
if you can't tell, Steve's a Chevy guy.
but their stuff hauled the mail. They always had cars that ran good. They were always a force to be reckoned with. Vernon's very, very smart. Jim's smart. Jim was a machinist for a guy named Chris Skursovic in town that had a machine shop, who was the best of the best as far as machinists back in those days. And so they'd build all these wild cars. Well, they had a Maverick that just hauled ass. And then they had a Pinto that hauled ass. And Vern would do some crazy stuff, but I remember, and I'm pretty sure, I can't totally remember. I can't remember if this was at I think it might have been at Laguna, right there. Laguna's kind of heads off of Las Posas, way lower Las Posas, and heads up toward the hills, like if you're going to go up the back way to like Dos Vientos and stuff. And Vern shows up with a Toyota pickup. I'll never forget this. And he shows up with a Toyota pickup, and he has a Banshee, a Yamaha Banshee. Are you guys familiar with Banshees are? So they're 2-stroke quads, okay? And they're 2-cylinder 2-stroke quads. There's motorcycles called RZs, okay, on the street. They were two strokes, and they hauled ass. And if you do some modifications to them, you do some cylinder work, some port work, heads, carbs, intakes, and pipes and stuff, they would get down. And I mean, they're fast. Anyway, so Vern built this wild quad, okay? It's a Banshee, and he unloads it, and he's got like flat track tires on it. This thing was so stupid fast. It was like you'd pull a rubber band, and when he'd leave the line, he had 2 to 3 cars out on the fastest cars at the street race. There was nothing at the street races that could beat him, because he'd hole shot him so hard. There's no way you were so
run him
far
down
out that you couldn't run the guy. You couldn't run him down, and it was hilarious. And I remember being out there, and everybody was just tripping out. He'd just do these. He'd get over the bars, do these big old burnouts going up to the starting line, and then it was just like pink, gone. And I remember the cops showing up, and just lights everywhere and stuff. I remember he had just made a pass, so he was the end. He probably looked up, saw the lights, and
kept going.
He went out into the field.
Went off road because he could.
I think if memory serves correct, I think I got in his truck. And I just took off and went down. I was out. I don't know who I was with or if I was in one of my cars at the time, but I went out and I think it was me. It might have been somebody else with me or something. We found him. We loaded the thing up, and we beat street and got
And
the
you
hell
didn't
out
get
of there.
caught.
You know,
You
no,
didn't get-
I think we all ended up back at the park and ride at Las Posas because that's where everybody would stage,
Yeah.
and then they'd figure out what direction they wanted to go there for.
Was that
races.
was the Banshee? Was it a 4-wheel drive or just 2-wheel?
No, it's just like a quad that you'd go out and ride in the sand dunes or the dirt tracks or whatever like that.
So I mean, when he left, he didn't pull it. He didn't pull the front wheels off, did he?
Well, it would try.
Really?
It would try. Those things are just
That must have been wild.
stupid fast. If you go up to Pismo or Glamis or whatever, you'll still see those things running around, and they're some of the fastest things out there. They got these big old long extended swing arms on them.
So not being a car race guy that much. I mean, I've been around it a little bit, but it just comes down to power to weight ratio, right? That's essentially it.
Yeah,
I mean, you
well-
could have a car that's got tons of horsepower,
and making
but if it
stick,
weighs
though,
a ton,
it has to stick to
Yeah.
the ground.
yeah,
That's the other thing.
So it's application of the power through the rubber onto the road, through the transmission, and all that stuff. Chain, and maybe this RZ has a chain, I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
So,
it's
but still, the power to weight ratio was insane on that thing, right?
Oh,
It had what, maybe 100 horsepower, or
I would say that's probably
maybe
pretty
100
fitty.
horsepower, but it probably only weighed like 300 pounds or something,
yeah,
right?
probably 300-400 pounds. Yeah,
Wow.
Two guys could lift it up and walk around with it.
So it's the same with street bikes. It's like any fast street bike can
Yep.
just dust almost any car made,
Yeah,
right?
and if you're out there with some like flat track knobby tires, hooking isn't going to be a problem.
Right, right.
You're going to hook and go. It's just a matter of staying over that tank and the bars, and because otherwise that thing will just
And
drive
hanging
itself
on.
backwards.
Well, I always remember watching Top Gear. They do the Morgans and the Caterhams and all those, and those things look like death traps. But I mean, and those guys are pretty jaded. They're sitting here driving Paganis and stuff, but they get out in that Caterham and be like, their eyes just like this. It's like that's
Yep.
got to be a rush
Yep. Yeah.
between a car and a motorcycle,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, speaking of Rush, I want to talk about your
The
new Steve's new purchase.
Let's go back.
What
to
is
Let's
it?
go back. Let's go back to Ricky.
We're
I was enjoying-
gonna go back to Ricky for sure.
I was enjoying Ricky's information and education here.
So you just picked up a '56 Bel Air race car.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about it? Because it has a special engine in it, or at least from what you told me, it's a special engine.
So, so I bought this. So, I'm just trying to shorten this.
How far
story.
back into history do you go, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's probably
I can
getting
tell by the look on your face.
Okay, so I think it's about a year and a half, 2 years ago, a friend of mine, Frank, who we've talked about. We talked
Frank
about
Saenz.
the other Frank Saenz, who we've talked about in the last episode as well, has kind of helped me and mentored me just pretty much with all my stuff with cars. Anyway, he was up in Bakersfield, and he saw this 56 Chevy, and it would belong to a guy named Russell, and I can't for the life of me remember Russell's last name, but he's from Ohio. Anyway, he had bought the car. It was a race car at the time, but then he went through it. He's very just OCD and very attentive to all detail and stuff. So he went through the whole car, changed a ton of stuff, redid it. He clean, changed, did all the stuff. He came up with the motor. There's another guy up in Ohio, and I cannot for the life of me remember his last name. I'll probably remember it after we get out of here. But I know his name was Eric, and I can't remember. Eric Bush, got it. So Eric Bush was a drag racer, and from up in Ohio, and I knew none of this before. This all has just I've gotten educated in the whole thing in the last couple of years. So Eric Bush used to have a guy named Tom Masick down in Marina Del Rey area build us motors of Masick racing engines. Fast forward, started dating his daughter Ann, and so and then obviously I actually knew Ann's dad Tom before I knew really Ann, and then her brother, and so fast forward. I'm talking to talking to Frank about this car. Frank tells me, go back to the purchase thing. I'm kind of jumping all around. But so Frank calls and tells me about these cars. Hey, man, he goes, this car is nice. And I go, well, for Frank to say it's nice, that means it's really nice.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, so if he's telling me this car's bitching, then I'm interested because, it takes a lot. So about that time when he was looking at it, there was a couple other friends of mine looking at it too. And one of them was a guy named Johnny Lynch, and then Rusty Cochran, and then another friend of theirs who Rusty and Johnny I'm friends with. And so they were kind of, one of them wanted to buy it, and then the other, I don't know how the whole thing went about, but I think it kind of went around the whole circle. And then Johnny ended up buying the car. So I'm like, I found that out. I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. Johnny's got really good taste. Johnny will do the car right. And I'm like, that was kind of cool. So fast forward. So Johnny has it. He takes it to the track a couple times and races it. And then he keeps it at, he's got a really bitchin' shop garage set up at his house with all of his cars. He's got a lot of really nice cars. Fast forward, I hear it's for sale, that he's going to sell it. I'm like, So thought about it real hard, and then, then my day-to-day duties gets in the way and gone and forget about it. And then I'm up at, I go up to a friend of mine has a barbecue once a year. His name's Mike Munoz. And a lot of people go, a lot of the Ojai guys, street racers and drag racers, mainly drag racers, go up there and this and that and the other. We start talking and stuff. And the car pops up again. Another friend of mine, Terry Newton, who's a drag boat racer, / drag car racer now, retired from the drag boat scene and went into the cars. We start talking, and he starts telling me about the 56, blah, blah, blah. He goes, well, I was going to buy that from Johnny. I'm like, oh, really? I go, well, I was kind of thinking about it when I got told about it a month or two ago, but I forgot about it, to be honest. And so Terry starts telling me all about it and this and that. I pretty much knew everything about it already. The one thing that I didn't know is that it had a Masick engine in it. So that kind of just intrigued me even more on the car. So anyway, we left there, and I called Johnny the next day. I'm like, Johnny, I go, what's the deal? Yeah, I'm going to sell it, blah, blah, blah. We started talking this, and I go, okay, I'll see you in the morning. I'll come out to your house. So went out, I looked at the car. It was pretty much I already saw some pictures of the car, and I'd heard about the car. So nothing that when I walked up, it was just what I kind of expected to see. Johnny put his twist on it, changed the wheels. He did some upgrades, fire suppression system, wheels, tires, some stuff to the steering column, blah, just a bunch of different things. Freshen up the trans and did this and that. Took it, raced a few times, and then decided, you know what, the whole drag racing thing just ain't for me. I want to, he likes cruising around on the street as I do as well too. So that's why he decided to sell it. Him and I put a deal together. I bought the car, but going back a little bit, when I was up at Mike Munoz's barbecue, where the subject got reignited again, Russell was up there, the guy who built the car. And I had met him the prior year, and talked with him. Really nice guy. So I started talking about the whole car. I said, I bought the motor from, Eric Bush, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Eric Bush had Masick do all his motors, this and that and the other thing, told me the whole story. Then I go, so nothing's been done to the motor? He says, no, I pulled the motor down to have everything checked. And I pulled it apart, and this was many years ago. And he goes, I pulled it all apart. He goes, I took it all down to the guy down there on Johnson. I go, oh, Roddy. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, okay. Well, this is the story's getting better now, because I've been friends with Roddy since probably in our teens, and he's always done. In the past, he did all my machine work. He's not doing it anymore. He's still got his machines and stuff, trying to put a shop together, but blah blah blah. He hasn't yet. Meanwhile, I have another friend named Joey Gross, and he does all my machine work, and he's pretty much the best of the best. You're not going to get any better than this guy, as far as I'm concerned. So I started talking, and he says, I guess Roddy did all the machine work and this and that. And I couldn't remember if Russell told me that he reassembled the motor, if Roddy reassembled the motor. But I'm like, okay, so now this motor's been through two people that I know and trust. Like, if these guys did the work, on the engine, then this is a badass engine, you know? And so that was cool. And then what was really neat is when I bought the car from Johnny gave me all the paperwork, and it came with the whole build out sheet from Tom Masick and everything. So I see, you can see everything that's in it and stuff. And plus there's a receipt in there from Roddy's shop when Roddy freshened it up and stuff. So, cool car. I mean, it's just it's a bitchin' car. I'm looking forward to.
Was that part of like the thing that made you want to get the cars because of the history of that engine?
It helped. I mean, I probably would have still bought the car as nice as it is, but that was the icing on the cake right there. I mean, that was the for sure, like, hey, done deal. Let's make it happen. So, but neat car, a really cool car. The cool thing, it's titled. And so
it's street legal. You can drive it on the street.
Kind
of because of the exhaust.
I mean,
right?
it's this thing's a full chassis car, full aluminum interior. Funny car cage, the whole 9 yards. It is a drag car. The thing runs like high 8s, and So, and I think there's potential to get it to run better, and go down the track, quicker.
How recently did you buy it?
Oh, it's just been the last couple of weeks.
Oh, so you haven't had a chance to go out and really.
No, as a matter of fact, and the thing, unfortunately, it's been fired up and moved, and the plugs are hammered on it. So I need to, and I probably got to pull the carburetor apart because the race gas sits in there and it does weird stuff. So carburetor needs to come off, needs to put a new set of plugs in it, and we should.
The funny part is his friend Ann, lady friend, whatever, she doesn't know that he has it yet.
She will now.
She will.
She might not know till this episode comes out. Dude.
When does this air? Yeah. What? You've got 2 weeks to straighten things out.
Yeah, right. Right.
That's funny.
No, this one's going to air next week.
Is it next week?
Yeah, this one will air
next
a
week's
week.
episode.
So
Okay,
you got a
You're
week
on
still.
borrowed
Then I
time,
definitely
Steve.
won't tell
Borrowed time.
Classic.
Actually, speak about that because Tom is it Tom, right? Tom,
Yeah.
Tom.
Her dad.
He was a pretty well-known engine builder, wasn't he? For
Yeah.
boats and cars, right?
Boats and cars for sure, and street cars, and he built motors for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many engines he put out. And he built a shop. When he retired, he built a pretty good-sized shop in his backyard, and that's where he did it. He had a small little head porting room where he'd poured his heads and stuff, and he was really good friends with Shaver Racing Engines. So I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Shaver Racing Engines, but they built, like, anybody who's in like the sprint car racing world knows of a Shaver, because a good majority of the sprint car motors in the past used to have Shaver engines in them. So Tom did all of his stuff, I think, at Shavers. He did a lot of it anyway, because they were real good friends. They were not just business friends, they were personal friends. And so I think he would dyno stuff at Shavers, then he would dyno engines also at another place down there called Verbanics, and which I don't know either one of them, never met them. So, but I've always heard good things about both shops.
Ricky, have you seen this car?
Not yet. I just found out about it right now.
Oh, okay.
and I found out about it but over the weekend. Steve, being the jerk that he is, he's like, hey, you got to come down to the shop. I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, you got to come down to the shop. I'm like, okay. And then, I don't know, like a couple hours go by, and he sends me the picture of the car. And this thing, I'm telling you guys, it is beautiful. It's white.
It's white.
So it's got mostly, it's got the one-piece front end, but all like the trim pieces are all painted airbrushed.
Oh, cool.
So like the chrome, the bright work and all that stuff, and it's done super, super well. I mean, is very, very nice car.
What color's the interior? Is it all just aluminum racing stuff?
It's
or
the color of metal.
Okay. it's a race car, right? Why do I even ask?
It's a full-on race car. But the cool part is, I think this is the kind of the party trick of the car, is that the dash, it's the original 56 dash in there.
Yep.
Good.
And he's got the race pack digital cluster, kind of cut into the actual where the Speedo was or whatever.
Yeah, they set it in the back, so it's not like it's sticking out in your face. It's
Nice.
French back into where the Speedo would be. And Race Pack has a crowned radius on the top, and so does 55 Chevy and 56 Chevy. So it fits in
it
there. It
works.
looks really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't have a passenger seat. Well, I don't know. Steve's going to probably put one in so he can take people for rides and scare the shit out of them.
That's definitely one of the first things going to happen.
I want to see Gabe in that passenger seat.
Oh, it's funny you say that, Dan, because the first time I met Steve, I bought the 66 Nova, which he still wears on my face, right?
Yep.
But when I came down to his shop, he's like, it was like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, dude, you have all this stuff? And he takes me for a ride in this, I think it was the gas car. Is it 56?
Oh, 57.
57. This thing looked like a death trap, but I went for a ride in it. And it had what you would think is a roll bar in it. I think it was just a bar, but I don't think it was going to save my life. And he takes me for a ride, and we're not wearing any seatbelts or whatever. And he just lights it up down Market Street. And he's just like, I just met this guy. And he's like, rah, rah, rah. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we could be friends. Because I'm scared shitless, and that was fun.
You like being scared shitless.
Oh, well, that's why I like drag racing.
That's the whole thing. Right?
I don't have any skills other than hold onto the steering wheel, you know. But yeah, that's what Steve does. But it's fun. It's fun.
Here's the hard question about the 56. Where are you going to put it?
It's already in there. It's already in there.
It's funny.
Oh, it's in there?
It swapped a spot. So one of the cars that was up there got brought over that I'm going to sell, got brought over to the shop into the area where I work, and it got shoehorned in the back with a plastic cover on it. So yeah.
I've been dying to ask that question because I've seen
Probably-
the shop
I would
before.
be
Probably took the spot of another 56, so covered up and won't notice. It's just the same old car.
It's funny too because whether you have one or two cars or
many dozens.
or Steve's amount of cars, you always don't have room for more cars.
No.
But you find out you make room, and next thing you know, you know this big shop that you have now becomes a small shop because you have no more room because you have so many freaking cars. So I think it's the scales. Still, it doesn't matter how many cars you have. You still like I don't have enough room for all my cars.
Well, it's funny. We had a son over here at one point. What did he say to me? At one point, we were talking about cars, and your son gets his eyes get really big, and he goes, "Yeah, he's always buying cars."
See, he's got a big mouth. Man. He was giving me up.
Oh, that's funny.
So speaking of cars, what kind of cars do you have right now in your stable?
Oh, nothing pretty like his, but I have a 56 Ford truck that a friend of mine built a while ago, and it's chopped and it's primered and pretty rough looking, but it runs good. Mm-hmm. And then usually what I drive, so I have two kids, and what we go to shows in now is I have my grandfather's 55 Chevy, and it fits us all comfortably, so we take that. But I also have my first car is a 62 Ford Ranchero.
Oh, and that's fun.
Yeah, and it's I learned that's pretty much everything I know how to do now. I kind of learned on that car, and I learned what works and what doesn't work by breaking shit on that car. Like it's and I've had it since '94, but it's not right now. It's pretty. It's got a 347 stroker in it now. I've had like 5 engines in it, and right now it's got a 347 stroker with a TKO 5-speed and 410 gears. So it's not the daily driver it used to be, and plus with the 2 kids, it's a little tight. But when I need to, I take it out and rip around town and clear my head.
You need attitude adjustment.
Yeah,
is that it?
Yeah, it works really good.
Are your kids into the cars?
Yeah, my daughter's kind of like she likes to push my buttons, and she pretends that she not into it. But when we go somewhere or we do something or if I'm working in the garage on something, she'll come out to the garage before my son does and see what's going on, or pass me a wrench or try to help. And so that's been pretty cool. But like I said, she likes to push my buttons and pretend she doesn't like the stuff. And she's really good at it. 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And 9 years old is when they start pushing buttons pretty good.
Yeah, she's.
I don't know, I feel like my 3-year-old's already doing it.
Yeah.
That could be your mom. Yeah.
So you know pretty much how to. You were saying you can do body work, you do paint.
Yeah.
You kind of pretty much do everything except for there was one thing you said. Oh, upholstery.
I don't know how to do upholstery. But I've worked with so many talented people over the years. I've just learned how to do a little bit of everything, and it's I just like learning, and it's worked out well because I never have to call too many people to do my stuff, and people always call me to do stuff now. So
that's just like Steve. I mean, we talked about this when Steve came on months ago, and we've talked about this with Kevin Haberly, Dana Newquist. I mean, so many people about all these skill sets getting lost. You know, how many upholstery guys are there left? Really, not quite a bit. Not many.
Not
I mean,
many.
And then paint guys. You know, they're not doing full restorations anymore. They're just doing insurance work.
Yeah.
Body guys, engine guys, machinists are
plating.
Plating.
Plating's
Oh,
a big
we
deal,
lost
right?
plating. Yeah.
Powder coating, painting, all
So
that stuff.
do you think? What do you think could help change that to go back to learning a skill set? What would you say to someone out there?
The hardest thing is that like a lot of the stuff has been taken out of schools, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the auto shop teacher at Ynez High, he's really pushing to keep things going, and they just got a booth set up over there, and they've got machining equipment for building engines over there that's better than some of the machine shops have, and so that guy is trying to keep stuff going really hard up there and doing a great job. They have a car show every year to kind of fund it.
The Pirate
yeah,
car
the
show.
pirate
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of funds it.
Wow.
But that's like the only thing, Santa Barbara High, I think they got robotics or something now. They don't have ROP, auto body or shop or anything like that.
San Marcos kind of does a little bit.
Yeah,
but they
and
don't
so
really use it that
we
much.
gotta get that guy on the show that teach you.
Definitely. I was just thinking the
same
thing.
thing.
I've never even heard of.
Yeah.
You hear about them removing all this stuff and not adding to it.
Yeah, he's built a pretty good program.
Wow.
Over the years,
That's cool.
and like I said, they just got a booth going in there. I forget where the booth came from. One of the shops that closed down in Santa Barbara, and they put it up there. It's all functioning, and he wants people to learn.
All the skill sets that you've kind of learned by breaking stuff or whatever. Did a lot of that stuff come down from your dad?
Well, yeah, like the body and paint for sure. Because when I was a kid, my dad had a shop restoring Porsches. And so I was over there a lot of the times, and he'd make me sand door jams and things like that. Yeah, like my friends are out having fun, and we're sanding things. But yeah, definitely body and paint from my dad. And my uncle was really good with electrical stuff, and he just helped me get through my Ranchero. So my Ranchero was a basket case when I got it. At the time, I was driving, my dad has a 65 El Camino, and I just had my license a short time. And I went to a 7-Eleven, and this guy's like, "Oh, cool, El Camino. Do you want another one? I have a lady that's moving, and she has to get rid of all these cars, and there's one of these on the property you can have."
What?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. And so I'm like, what? I take his info, and me and my dad go out to this house off Patterson, and there's just looks like a regular track house with the backyards full of like cars, but like weird, nothing crazy, but the Ranchero was in there, and it was a Ranchero. The guy had told me it was El Camino, just like the 65 El Camino I'm driving, but the Ranchero was there, and it was baby blue sitting in the dirt, and I'm like, I don't know, I liked it. And it's crazy because the lady said it had been sitting there for like 12 years or something. And me and my dad came back with a battery and some gas, and the thing fired up. So we came back with an air tank and put air in it, and it had a brake pedal. So my dad's like, I'll drive it, you follow me. And so we drove it from Goleta all the way to the east side of Santa Barbara and made it no problem.
Wow.
But it was funny though, because I drove it, and when we got home, he let me drive it around the block, and I drove it around the block, and I'm like, oh no, this ain't gonna work, because it was like driving a golf cart. It had a 144 cubic inch engine with a 2-speed automatic, and it was
good reason to rip all that out. And
Yeah.
have a project car.
I
right?
found in the Santa Barbara News Press, a guy had wrecked a 68 XR7 Cougar, and it had a 302 in it with a 4-speed and a 9-inch rear end. So I got that thing for like $400. Took it. We had them jacked up side by side at the house and put all that stuff in that car, even the floor. So like, cause that car, the 6-cylinder had a tiny, tiny drive shaft, and it would never fit the big drive shaft that the V8 needed. So we cut the whole floor out from the rockers all the way to the firewall and the
So you can get the rear end too, or
and I me and my dad put the whole Cougar floor in there and attached it into the sub rails of the Ranchero. And so like I had the Cougar bucket seats bolted up to stock Cougar platforms and the factory Cougar shifter for a while when I was first driving it around, and
So you're really driving a Cougar.
yeah.
Is it a Cougaro?
Yeah.
A Cougar.
It's a Cougaro, I think.
Wait, so when you came over to that house and you were expecting an El Camino and
Yeah.
saw a Ranchero, what was your first reaction?
I was like, but I just liked it. And then I found out that like my grandpa had a bunch of those. Like on my mom's side, he had a bunch of those over the years, and was really into them. And I liked it. And for a short period of time, my dad did a 356 Porsche for a guy, and part of the payment for the car was he got a 63 Falcon Sprint convertible. And so there was like about a year or so we were driving this car around the shows and stuff, and I always liked that car, and it was real similar. So I wasn't, and it was a free car.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Steve, what if somebody offered you a free El Camino and you show up and it was a Ranchero? What would you
I
say?
know what you do.
Okay, so
This is gonna be good.
So that I was just going to comment right now and say, so that is where we lost Ricky. so somebody screwed up on a year and a model of a car, because if that would have been an El Camino, we'd probably be talking about more my style cars that Ricky owns. But he made a wrong turn somewhere in somebody's backyard.
He went to the dark side,
He
right?
did. He went to the forward
Ricky,
side.
at least you can know that Steve doesn't hang out with you for your cars.
Yeah.
He's hanging out with you for obviously probably better reasons, but maybe that's a good thing.
He likes the fact that you own a Cougar.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody ever comes up to me and says, "Hey, have you ever seen Ricky's Ranchero?" I'm gonna say, "No, I've seen his Cougar. But I've never seen a Ranchero."
Oh, well, you're right. I think we ought to have that guy on from San Ynez.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
yeah, he's cool, and he's doing a lot.
He's been there a while too, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Are
I
you
think I know who you're
pretty
talking
connected in Santa Barbara with like community wise, like trying to like, I don't call it outreach, but like staying connected with guys to help the community type of thing? Because I know Steven Ventura, he's connected to like with Frank Signs and all the other buddies that he has. They all kind of help each other in some roundabout kind of way. Are you like that in Santa Barbara? Is it a kind of a tight community out there?
Yeah, try to be. Like a lot of the guys you saw that you had on stage, always try to take care of those guys. And when I have a lot of customers over 11 years of building cars in San Ynez, and I have a lot of customers still that need stuff done. And a lot of times it's just trying to get them to go out and drive their car. Remember how much fun it is. A lot of people just park their cars and
Steve.
I wasn't going to say it. I built this 49 Olds probably like 10 years ago, and the car came out like nice. And I mean, it's only been to 3 shows and it's won every time. And I think I've driven it more than the customer's driven it. And I'm like, dude, like you gotta go out and have this thing fun. And he'll call me every once in a while. Oh, I had to move the car and it won't start, and I got to go over there and drain the gas. And it's a nice car, like polished, perfect interior. And it just sits,
Just sits. Things start going wrong with it.
Yeah.
Just sits
And so a lot of these guys are getting older where, man, part of what I do is just go drive their car for them,
Like a driver for hire.
Yeah.
Come drive my
Yeah.
car. It's interesting because I find this, and I know I'm going to get totally hated on for saying this, probably from my friends too, because the younger generation, especially in the import community, you don't see a lot of this where you're respecting the elderly. I say elderly, like the legacy of the generations before you. Like you're looking out for the people that you kind of grew up looking up towards, and that part of the community. That's what I find is really interesting and really cool about the hot rod guys. Like what Steve did for his buddy that had cancer and passed away, and did the burnout at the funeral and brought the car. I feel like that's such like I don't know. It's very prevalent in the hot rod community, but you don't see that outside of that very much. At least I haven't.
Maybe there isn't as much history. I mean, maybe that's what
there
could be part of it too.
That's what I was going to say too. It's like, well, you're not going to be talking about import racing in the 70s and even in the 80s. I'm not saying they weren't around, but they really weren't around.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like you're talking a onesie, twosie versus whole plethora,
The whole culture of
exactly,
racing.
100%. Yeah.
That could be true. It just seems a
Well,
little bit
we
different.
were at Ventura Cars and Coffee one day. You and I were standing there talking to, I'm trying to remember, young guy, and he talked about, you were telling me about how the different generations, they went out and bought the different cars for somebody who had died in the family. That's a fantastic story. And that's what you were talking about. They go back generations.
And those are import guys, but they're also hot rodders too. Their dads had like, Fords and Chevys and stuff like that.
Okay.
But no, you're right. They do have those import things. As a matter of fact, actually, one of the guys that we met, John Urban, he has the purple Civic that I showed you, whatever. His dad knows Frank Saenz, and he might even know Steve because he grew up right around the corner from Steve's current shop right now, where he's at. So it's just like, he respects the hot rod community, but he's into the imports. So you're starting to see a little bit of that hybridization.
Crossover.
Yeah.
Crossover.
So I feel like it will be there. It's just, hearing stories like you guys are sharing, I think it's very important to know that, like, these guys do look after each other. They do respect, the generation that came before them,
Well, look ahead 30, 40 years from now. All the guys that have been wrenching on these, Mazdas and whatever, they're going to be telling stories about how their father was out there wrenching on these cars. And,
I mean,
it's going to happen at some point. It's just a matter of time.
I mean, having owned, American Muscle and Japanese imports, there's nothing like the old school hot rods. They were built differently. They're just a different car. You can say it's built better or stronger or whatever, but I don't feel the same way about my RX-7 as I did about the 66 Nova that Steve has now.
There's no doubt about that.
I don't feel the same way, and I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I could be wrong. We'll find out in a couple of years. Who knows?
What else? By the way, do you know what Eric Beecher? Does that even ring a bell?
Boy, the name sounds familiar. I can't place it though.
So Eric, as we've been talking about the Valley and restoration shops, Eric has a shop. He was in Goleta. And he was a Santa Barbara police officer, left the force, said, I'm going to follow my dream, opened up a shop in Goleta, and just moved about a year ago to San Ynez Valley. He just set up a paint booth, too. But we're going to have him on the show here in the next couple weeks, probably. And he said he'd be on.
And he does actual, like hot rod, custom paint work. He doesn't just do insurance work.
No. He is a full-blown hot rod restoration shop.
That's cool.
Yeah.
One that's actually opening. That's crazy.
Opening. And
usually hear about closing.
At one point, I said to him, oh, yeah, you'll get a lot of exposure. We'll put you on the show. And he goes, I don't need exposure.
Right?
No, he's got so much work right now.
I don't want people to know I'm around.
Yeah.
Gates shut.
Yeah, exactly. He goes, no, man, we got so much going on. But we're going to have him up here talking about it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
So, it'll be fun to hear his take on it because especially maybe it'd be fun to have Eric on and the guy from Ynez High School on.
Yeah.
I would imagine that you would think those two would be connected
also
somehow, or
too,
they should be.
Maybe Kevin Haberly, too, because he's doing the whole thing with the
Hot Rod Project.
The Hot Rod Project, Community Hot Rod Project and the Auto Expo, which is coming up pretty soon here.
Is it mid-August?
Something like that.
Yeah, August 10th,
12th, something like that.
Are you going to go to that, or are you going to bring a car?
I'm going to go to a punk rock show down south.
So there are limitations to your hot rod history. I love it. Going punk rock. Oh man. All right. Anything else, guys? We covered everything.
Which punk rock show are you going to?
At the Garden Amphitheater, they have Deadbolt playing and a couple other bands, but Deadbolt's the one I'm going to see.
I know a few punk bands, but I've never heard of Deadbolt.
Deadbolt's not really punk. They're more towards maybe psychobilly, rockabilly. Just a bunch of crazy dudes, but
no mosh pit.
I don't know. There might be. They're probably
you gonna be diving off the stage.
But there's two other good bands that are hardcore punk. But Deadbolt's the one I'm going to see.
Cool. Yeah. Sounds like fun.
You can bring Steve with you?
No, I'll end up getting too radical.
Yes.
You two can go together in the Cougar.
That's what I was thinking.
Go to the punk rock show and
that Cougar is punk. That's a punk car.
That's a
for
punk
sure.
car.
That's
No doubt
definitely
about it.
Wasn't
punk
a
car.
Cougar like a luxury car back in the day? Wasn't that like a higher end car?
somewhere.
Yeah.
Some of the Cougars
It's like
were.
a luxury Mustang, pretty much.
Yeah.
Floor and everything's the same as a Mustang, but
Especially the XR. Wasn't that the higher version?
yeah,
That was the higher
XR7
level.
was the performance one.
Yep.
I don't know anything for it. I just know Chevy. That's why talk to Steve.
We got to expand your horizons a little bit.
And we're just trying to keep him on the straight and narrow.
Don't sway me, devil.
Hey, it was funny when we were doing that car, and we had him in my parents' driveway, and I had the Ranchero on jack stands here and the Cougar here, and we're literally swapping things over. But like you said, that's kind of as far as Cougars go, it's kind of a rare car. And a guy actually came by the house and was like, "Oh man, you got this car. I'm glad it went to a good home." And he's like in the Santa Barbara Cougar Club, which I didn't even know existed.
Was that before you brought the Sawzall out?
They were jacked up like this, side by side, and there's like a cutting torch in front. And he came by like a couple times and then stopped coming by.
Yeah.
He's like, "What have you done?"
Have you checked any Cougar forums to find out what he said about you? It's like horrible thing.
I sold a lot of the parts off of that car, so it probably helped get other Cougars on the road. That's what I'm.
I'm surprised you didn't call the cops on you and report a chop shop or something going on.
The Cougar police.
Yeah, it was funny.
Oh man! All right. Thanks, guys. Steve, thanks for coming back again.
Anytime.
Talk about hot rod history. We'll have more of that.
Anytime.
Rick, good to see you. Thanks for
See you
coming
guys.
by. Yeah, we'll have you back again and talk about more history.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Any other projects you're working on? Bring them by. We'd like to see them.
Yeah, I've always got something going on.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, what did you drive today? We didn't ask. What did you drive today?
I came in his little car. No, my late model is an 87 S10. That's what I drove down here.
Late
Okay.
model 87 S10.
And then what car did Steve drive over here?
Later
Rental?
Later model.
Rental.
Way to get out
Wait a
of
minute.
that one.
Wait.
Hey,
Is
Way to get out of that one. That's a good one, Steve. I'm gonna start saying that about my Tesla. I came on my rental.
Damn, I don't even know if I'd claim that as a rental, homie.
Not a
It
Tesla.
is embarrassing. I know. Trust me. It's not. I'm not proud of it.
I mean, that's almost about as saying my girlfriend let me drive her car.
Hey,
Okay, what
So
car
you
is
had
more
a-
embarrassing, my car or your car?
My car's more embarrassing.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
think so?
Yeah.
At least mine's a
Well,
nice car, right?
No, in front of car guys. Yeah, I don't want to admit that I drive a fucking Tesla.
and then you sold a 66 Nova, and now you have a Tesla?
Ooh, when you say it that way, it's
Hard
pretty
questions.
ugly.
Ricky,
Hard
you're hitting
questions.
below
I'm
the
just
belt.
trying to put it
It's
together.
pretty ugly now. But it is true.
You know,
It's
it
factual.
wouldn't hurt so bad if Steve didn't have it back in his garage. I see every time I go over there. Yes, it's I'm living in a different time right now. It's I don't want to get into politics, but yeah,
Wow.
the economy's not that great, so I'm having to drive it.
Hey, Dan, you don't drive a Prius, right?
No, but
Okay.
pretty bad.
Okay, well, I mean,
Corolla.
I was going to say, if you drove a Prius, then you and Gabe are pretty much neck
It'd
and
be
neck.
tied up. I got a Corolla. I don't think it's much better, but
Yeah,
Is it?
Corolla.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah,
It's an econo
No,
box,
that's definitely better than what I'm driving for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Because Steve's quote unquote rental that he has right now, it's in the same vein as the Corolla. It's a utility car. He
Okay.
just uses it to get from.
You know why I bought that thing? I was just telling Ricky, because I can fold the front seat down, fold the back seats down. I can still put a complete drum-to-drum rear end in the back of that thing if I need be.
And you probably will be.
Yeah, most
you go.
definitely. I can put long stuff in there. I can
There you
put
go.
prop
Yeah.
shafts out of a boat, just as long as I can get some long stuff in there for car parts, and I'm good.
Yeah.
That's why I have the minivan.
Perfect.
I drive in minivans. How do I compare?
The minivan's
with-
cooler than the Tesla.
You think so?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%, dude.
Yeah.
I took the seats out so I can load up.
I don't
shit.
even know what kind of minivan it is, but I could tell you it's cooler than Tesla.
Yes. I'm not going to argue with that point at all, dude. At all.
Oh boy.
Some good car bashing going here
Yeah,
to close
it
out
is,
the
really.
show, huh?
Yeah, I deserve it.
I like it.
I deserve it.
I feel better about my minivan now.
You should.
I know.
You should.
You drive that thing with pride.
I do. Now I will. Big smile. I'll put the seats back in it at
That's
some
right.
point.
That's right.
Funny how things change. Like, 10 years ago, minivan, mom car, soccer mom
soccer
car,
mom.
right? But now it's like, minivan, not bad. Tesla.
Tesla's always going to be looked at the same.
Tesla's the new
It's a
soccer
toaster.
mom.
It's a toaster oven, dude.
Yeah,
It's a
is.
toaster oven.
It
That's
is.
all it is.
You
It's not
plug it
even a
in.
car. It's an appliance.
You
I
do
like the
plug
old,
it in.
I still like the old Chevy. What those were, the Astro vans, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Astro van,
I've
yeah.
seen those. Some of those things.
Laid out.
Pretty
I
cool,
love
man.
those.
Not to get
I
off
mean-
topic, but those things are starting to come back with the
bet they are.
with the billet specialty wheels or the Boyd wheels
Yeah.
and the billet grills.
The billet
They're
grill.
coming back, dude.
Yeah. Remember, that was kind of the rage for a long time.
yeah.
People were slamming them on the ground, put some nice wheels on them. Stuff.
Or
Hey,
the
I liked them.
Or the GMC Savannah, right? Same thing.
Savannah.
Wasn't the Savannah the Astro or no?
It was the same thing as the Astro. I think that was like the
Maybe so.
the upper tier, but you know,
I thought Steve, being a GM guy, he would be all over
I
us,
got
but-
I got lost after Astro.
Yeah, well, I get it. We're talking boxes here with wheels on them.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But you would see them at the river back when I was a kid. They see them at the river towing little jet skis and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
They were cool, man. On bags.
Yep.
Well, in high school, I drove a 72 Ford Econoline van. You know, with a little porthole window in the back and the shag
don't wanna
carpet.
say it,
but
Yeah.
A
I
stalker
wanted that-
van. A stalker van.
A stalker van. That's
There you
it.
go.
So
I was going to think
Was
something
it
like,
white? Was it white?
No. It was
Oh,
red,
okay.
red with yellow stripes that kind of
Oh,
looked like that.
okay.
Yeah. And it
Did you
had
have
the
candy for
8-track player.
kids?
What's that?
Do you have candy for the kids?
No. I had an 8-track player with, and it always had Led Zeppelin in through the outdoor. Sweet.
Their worst
That
album.
thing played
Their worst
all
album.
the time.
And you
on
had
that
long
thing.
hair, didn't you?
I loved it. I did have long hair.
Ah, there you
I
go.
had like a double ponytail.
Did it have side
the
pipes?
game.
Yeah.
Did it
Was
have
that what?
side pipes?
No side pipes.
Oh,
I wasn't that cool.
You would have had side pipes, and,
I wasn't that cool.
and that would have really just.
Just set it off.
It had the 3 on the tree.
Oh,
Yeah.
3 on the tree.
Oh, so that was a hot van. If it had
It
a
was.
3 on the tree, I know it didn't have AC.
No, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
And this was in Hemet. This is the desert.
Oh,
Yeah.
Damn.
No AC in Hemet?
No,
Ouch.
no.
So
in
you-
fact, when I
gosh.
got it, I remember my my dad showing up. I pull up in this minivan, or not a minivan, full blown 72 Econoline van, and he looks at it and he opens up the door, and what does he see? Shag carpet everywhere.
Bow,
And there's like, yeah, and there's like, like that,
bow,
a
bow.
lift with a little bed in the back, and he's like, "What the hell are you gonna do with this thing?" I said, "Let's listen to the 8-track."
It's a sex van. Just say, Dad, it's a
Yeah,
sex
that's what it
van,
was.
right? You get laid in it.
Shag and wagon.
Shag and wagon. There you go.
Did you have a Leonard Skinner baseball tee?
Oh, I love Leonard Skinner.
I've
Yeah.
well,
Skinner, yeah.
Oh yeah,
You know the baseball
But-
tee with the long sleeves?
No. But Zeppelin was always on
Just all
Zeppelin.
Hopefully, you had bean bags and lava lamps in there.
Yeah, no, I didn't go that far with it. No. And actually, I got rid of that, and that's when I bought the Jeep, the 46.
That's pretty
Willis
cool.
Jeep.
Willie's?
Yeah, took out the
Yeah.
Ford Banger in it, dropped in a 283 Chevy.
Nice.
Yeah, that one actually, when the guy I sold it to, he gets into this thing, right? I put it up on the corner. I get a call within an hour, right? So I go down there and meet this guy, and we swapped out the rear end, so it had the low gear, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I said, whatever you do not pop the clutch on this thing because you won't control it. Pop, 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 pop. And that's sure enough, that's what he does. And he goes pop, 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 through an intersection, right? And he stops, and he goes, "I'll take it." So we go down the bank. He gives me cash. We signed the paperwork, and I said, "Well, good luck." And he goes, "Oh man, I'm taking this. I'm going to take these tires off. I'm going to put some paddles on this thing, and we're going to Glamis."
Wow.
That was his plan, and never saw the thing again.
Wow.
But then I bought that, and I bought a 2002 BMW. So that was. I was always.
My
flipping
brain's
cars back
hurting.
then.
What?
Yep.
You went from creepy to cool to kooky?
Yeah, well,
No.
back
That's a
then.
cookie. No.
Back then, it's
Yuppie.
Yeah, yuppie. That's what it was.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, that's
Wait, what
exactly
year?
it was.
What year did you get the 2002?
Oh God, you're gonna go back in history. So let's see. High school, I kind of graduated in '81, but I really didn't. So that was the van, then the Jeep. So I probably bought the 2002 probably in '83.
Oh, so you're yuppie then.
What year was it? 2002.
It was a 70. No, the first one was a 69. Then I had a 72, and then I had a 74.
Those 2002s are very pricey
Oh
now.
yeah.
You
The
had
first
three
one was a
of them?
roundy, what they call a roundy, the roundy. That was the only one. The other two I had were square
You had
tail.
3 different 2002s?
I had 3 of them.
I'm surprised you haven't bought another one because there's passion there if you had 3
Oh,
of
I
them.
love them.
I mean,
I
holy
love
crap.
them. The thing I loved about the 2002 was the simplicity. You'd sit in this thing, and it was just dashboard, gauge, and one little slider.
Yeah, the old
That was pretty
BMWs
much
were
it.
really like
was it.
utilitarian. They weren't
Yeah.
before they became yuppie
Yeah, yeah,
mobiles because
yeah,
I
yeah,
sold
yeah.
BMWs back in the day.
Okay.
I worked at Hal Watkins back in the day, and I saw some cool 2002 CS635Es, like all
yeah.
these kind of exotic.
TIIs,
Yeah, for the
TIIs,
time. Yeah. And we'd get the Euro cars in and stuff. And
There's
like,
a guy in Houston, I believe, that works on only 2002s, but what he does is he rips the drivetrain out of them, puts the S2000 drivetrain, the rear-wheel drive on
Oh,
it.
wow.
And these things rip, dude. That's
could
240 horsepower.
Yeah, because 2002 was a gutless car. I mean, it was cool, but it was a gutless car.
No, it didn't have any power.
For sure, yeah.
Anyway, the last one I had was the 74, and I pull up to a red light, and it was the quietest death I've ever heard in my life.
Just died, huh?
I just pull up, stops. I'm like, is it not running anymore?
It died in its sleep.
And it just, with the aluminum block, right?
Died of natural causes.
That was it. And I said, that was it. And then I went out and bought a 70 Carmen Ghia convertible. And I drove that around L.A. That was my last few years. And I was a bartender. I lived in L.A.
I know, it's a little...
I'm like trying to peg you as something, and I can't
Yeah,
yet.
he's all over the map.
Because
He's all over the
you got a
map.
911 now. You
I
have
have
a
a
Corvair-ish. Well, I mean, Beth's Corvair.
Only because that was kind of an inherited kind of thing. But
Yeah, and then
I've never been a big Corvair
what
fan,
did you?
but we had
Then you had the Acura, the
Acura.
GSR, the Integra, GSR.
GSR.
The minivan.
I had that for
I love
18
this. We're
years.
grilling CJ now. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Let's grill him.
What was before the Acura, CJ? Subaru?
CJ, this is your life.
Well, no, but before the Acura was, I mean, I went through that. Like everybody's going to know that if you have kids, you go through a zone where you almost have to go like a dead zone for cars because you're focusing on marriage and kids.
Is
Yeah,
that true,
kid
Steve?
hauler.
So-
I don't think so.
Negative Rampart.
I would say,
Negative Rampart. I like that.
I would say negative, but then again, I'm divorced, so maybe there's something to that.
Could be.
So I
could
saved
be.
my marriage. I didn't get a car for a few years. But yeah, I can't even remember what was before the GSR. What was it?
I thought you had a Subaru, I heard. Didn't you have a Subaru somewhere in there? No Subi?
No,
I'm trying to
my
guess.
daughter has a Subaru.
I'm trying to
Okay.
guess, but I can't because they're.
He's random. He's very
so
random.
Well, let's see.
Very
So,
random.
no. I remember what it was now. But this was my, this was my dad's influence. Remember, I said the worst car my dad ever had was that Chevy Chevette.
Yeah.
You remember that?
yeah.
It was like an '81.
Don't say
Chevy
you had a
Chevette.
Chevette.
I did not, but I had fairly close comparison.
Ooh.
It was a 1990 Hyundai Excel.
Oh, that's back. Like,
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, but let me explain to you why I ended up with a
purpose?
Hyundai Excel. No, not really. No. So here's the thing. I went back then. I had zero money. Right. I just started in TV, and I had zero money, but I had to get a car. So I kept going around to all these dealerships, and I was trying to, negotiate prices on all the cars that I wanted. I'm like going here, and now they're like going, no way, can't do it. We can't do it. Can't do it. So I walk into the Hyundai dealership, right? And I'm like, what the freaking? This car literally brand new was $4,600.
I remember those. LA
Yeah.
Times seeing the ad. Like, you
yeah.
can get a new car for $4,000.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like-
So I walk in and I said, hey, I got this, but this is all I got. And they're like, okay. I'm like, seriously?
Crap, I just bought a Hyundai.
I bought a Hyundai. So I did. I bought the thing. Now
You bought it brand new?
Bought it brand new.
Wow.
$4,600.
He
Actually,
picked it out.
He picked
He
out.
went, I want that one.
He consciously went to the Hyundai dealer to buy a brand new Hyundai, picked it, and offered a price. They agreed, and you drove it home.
I took it.
He did that shit willingly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, CJ.
Yeah, kind of willingly. I'd been to every other dealership in town before that.
If they
before I ended
accepted
up with
your
$100.
if they accepted your offer that quick, I think I would have said, "Whoa, you know what?
Put on the brakes. Pump the brakes.
little bit
Pump
of a
the
flag.
I
brakes.
got to go think about this."
Little red
And
flag
came
right
back
there.
about
Yeah.
another $500-600 lower.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I was in and like all I know is that somebody took my offer and this is all the money I had and they said yeah. I'm like, done deal. But I kind of made up for it with the GSR. So then I get my next job. I start maybe 2 jobs later. I start making enough money.
Yeah, that's
And now
quite a
I'm-
leap.
I'm in-
Hyundai, first generation Hyundai,
Yeah.
to Acura GSR.
Yeah, well,
that's quite a leap.
I was working in Fresno, so this was my 3rd TV job. Started making some money, and so I had the Hyundai. AC goes out, and I'm commuting between Fresno and Santa Barbara because Beth is working at KUIT, so we're dating. We're not married yet. And so I'm like, shit, I can't drive this piece of shit anymore. The AC's out. I only bought it for $4,600. It's 5 years later.
Plus, it's a Hyundai.
It's a Hyundai. So I walk into, I heard about the Integras, the Acura Integras. So I walk into the dealership and I said, at Fresno Acura, and I said, hey, I'd like to test drive one of your GSRs. And they're like, test drive a GSR. Mm-hmm. You test drive a regular one, then you place an order for a GSR. I'm like, oh. I didn't believe him. So next time we're down here, I'm with Beth. They said, hey, let's go down to Ventura because they've got an Acura dealership. I want to go test drive the GSRs. And I walk in. I said, I'd like to test drive your GSRs. And they go, you don't test drive GSRs.
Same thing, huh?
Shit, I guess the guy was telling me the truth. So I test drove a regular one. Go back to Fresno, walk into the dealership, and I said, I'll place an order for a GSR. I waited 6 months, got the car back.
What did that car cost new?
That was, by the time they added all the shit together, and I was like, I walked in thinking I was going to buy it for like 20 or 21.
Right.
And you know how it is. After you sign out the contracts, you go, whoa, shit. They added $5,000 to this thing? Where'd that go? Where did all that come from? I think it was about 25 grand. I think it was 25, 26, something like that.
What did you have after the GSR?
Well, the GSR I gave to my daughter, my oldest daughter, and I bought the 911.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
All right.
So I'm getting better.
No, yeah,
Definitely.
I'm moving up since the Hyundai.
What year 911 is it?
87.
Oh, okay. Is it SC?
Carrera.
Oh,
It's a nice car.
Nice.
It's a really nice car. I love your car.
All right, so I have to ask the
I
question now
love it too.
since everybody knows the answer to this question that I would answer. What's the most embarrassing car you've ever owned?
I already answered that.
I know you will. We got you out of the way.
Well, I had to commute to Buellton every day for
I love how you're
a
explaining
long
why you
time.
had to.
Yeah.
Everyone has to
And
justify the car, right?
so at the time, my newest car was a 65 Thunderbird, and it was $25 a day to go to work in that thing. So I had to do something. So I found an older, it was a 91 Accord wagon. And it actually was pretty cool because you could.
Pretty cool.
Ford wagon's a good car.
I've carried rear ends in that one. I've carried engine blocks to the machine shop.
Nobody's going to bag on an Accord.
No, Helm would actually say, "Hey, do you still have it? I want to buy it."
It's a 5-speed too. It was a 5-speed.
dang, that's
so
pretty rare.
It was,
Nice.
Yeah, it was hard to find.
That's not very embarrassing at all,
So
actually.
that's all I got.
I want to hear Steve's. Because he can't. You don't have an embarrassing car, do you?
Well, he rented one. Today.
Well,
Yeah.
That he's
Are
owned?
we talking owning or leasing?
No, owned. Well,
oh shit. I think leasing counts too.
Okay.
You had to pay for it.
all right. Let her rip, Steve. We want to hear this.
I think the only thing I can say, I'm just trying to go back. I mean, honestly, I know I've had I've had to have had 1,000+ cars. So I'm not even joking. So
1,000.
I believe it.
yeah,
If you look at his yard now, you'll believe it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna, cause see, I got no shame. I mean, I'll jump it. I don't care how ugly, dirty, nasty it is.
This is true.
If it gets me from point A to point B, I'm driving it. So I don't need to look all glam on the road. But
So you would
But
drive a
I'm
Hyundai
gonna
XL?
I would.
Wow.
I just tint the windows. Tint the windows, ball cap. And
Okay, maybe I should rephrase it. It was as how about a car that you look back on? I can't believe I actually owned one of those. Which might not be embarrassing, but maybe the car's a piece of junk, or
I really don't.
I mean, if you've owned 1,000 cars and you can't think of one, that's a pretty good batting average.
Yeah.
I mean, all the cars I've had have always been kind of cool factor cars. I mean, I bought this. I don't know why it keeps coming to mind because it's way cool factor. I bought this 68. I think it was a 60. I know it was 60. It was a 68. I can't remember if it was a Caprice or an Impala wagon, but it had a big block in it. It was fully loaded, power windows and tilt and cruise and all that stuff. And I just would mob that thing around. I mean, because all I bought it for was the drivetrain. So, I mean, the stuff Frank and I used to do in these old cars that we were going to depart out. I mean, I used to come flying up Callens Road, make a big wide turn and just jump the approach. No joke. We would do that. Or we would take them out. There was a dirt field right up here on Palma, before they put those new buildings, right before you get to the freeway on the right-hand side. It was all just fields out there, and Frank's shop was right there, and we used to just cruise, get the front wheels up on the dirt, and get the back wheels up, and just go out there and just tear around, and just and I mean, and these were plowed fields, so big chunks of dirt and stuff. Wow. We would just go out there and just mob on these. Then we'd come flying off the curb on the field and go right over the approach and jump back into Frank's driveway and do donuts. And
there was a Caprice?
Yeah, it's a Priester and Impala wagon.
Those are actually cool.
It was white wood grain side.
Okay, so
Oh, those are cool.
So
I
Steve's
like
never
that.
had an embarrassing car. How about you, Dan?
Well, we've covered this before. So my first car, 74 Ford Pinto.
But
I know it's become cooler now, but in the day, man.
when you had the Pinto back in the day versus the Corolla now, which one would, if you had to go back to one of those two cars or pick one of those,
Corolla by far is
over the
million times better car. No, the Pinto was a piece of shit. If it would have been reliable, I would have been fine with it. It was a piece of shit.
I mean, it is a Ford.
It was unreliable. No,
sorry.
No, my first car was a Ford, and I have the Ford hate too. I'm like, everyone today is like, why don't you get a blah blah blah? And I'm like, I'll never touch a Ford car, never. I do not like Fords at all.
So what would you pick?
There's our short. Our next short is that comment right there. We're going to have all the haters on top of Dan.
Hate away, man.
Hate away who love Ford.
You can't dispute the track record. Hate away.
Well, luckily there's more Chevy lovers than there are Ford lovers.
Well, even
Gabe was like
Chrysler.
trying to shield Ricky.
Well, even Chrysler like is questionable. You know, like a lot of rust, a lot of build problems and stuff. But I mean, I had Dodge trucks and stuff back when they were
Mopars are
like
interesting.
Chrysler. Yeah, they're interesting, right? But Fords.
All right.
That's a hell of a way to close out a show.
It was a flurry.
Yeah.
It was a flurry.
We
That was
covered
what it was.
We covered all corners right there. Huh?
Hopefully nobody listens to the end of the show so they can't come and comment and hate on us.
Best part of the show is the end by far.
Yeah. And it started with my Econoline van.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should open every show grilling CJ about your car.
Yeah. You'll learn more and more.
Makes me feel better.
I think we had to pay for a soundtrack. We had to start up with Led Zeppelin now.
Yeah.
Every show starts out.
We
with
might not get the rights
Zeppelin.
to that since we have no money.
We'll hawk something. I don't know. We'll sell one of the Fords out in the garage.
Do a Led Zeppelin cover band song then.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Wait, you can't sell one of the Fords in the garage. Steve owns them now.
Oh, that's right. He owns those too. That's right.
Quiet. Yeah, we should start out every show now with little Led Zeppelin going, and we can just start showing flashes of a Ford Econoline. all different things, side pipes and
Shag
I'm
carpet.
gonna have to ask Beth for old pictures of you.
Oh my God.
With long hair.
There are a
Long
couple.
hair.
There are a couple.
I think we get a picture, like a modern picture of CJ, and then we just and we just Photoshop some long hair
there
on
you
him
go.
right now.
It's a good thing about AI.
Yeah.
It's really easy now.
There is a photo from back then. It's sitting probably in a box somewhere, but I've got a double ponytail.
Ooh. Double
Dang.
pony.
It was that's how long it
Double.
was.
Wow.
And I'm actually
ponytail.
going through a wave, and you can see the hair halfway flying.
Wow. Oh, we want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Every time I watch the news now and see you on there, all I'm going to think about is a
Double
fucking
ponytail.
Hyundai Excel, dude. That's all I'm going to think about. This motherfucker drove a Hyundai Excel.
Ugly dude, double ponytail.
Chose
driving a
to
Hyundai
drove
Excel.
one. You chose to drove a brand new one. Brave man.
A day that will go down in infamy.
That's it.
All right.
Do you think I should try and track that car down to see if I can find
No.
out where it is?
I definitely would.
It's a
do
Pepsi.
it
It's
if
a
I was
Pepsi
you.
can
Yeah,
now.
That's what I was gonna say.
Probably.
It's not in
it
car
is a
form
Pepsi
anymore.
can.
It's probably came back twice.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't want that thing to
Oh,
come back
man.
like herpes. You don't want that thing.
No,
There's
no.
probably some of it in his Tesla.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the battery. Yeah.
Oh, now we're even. Yeah.
Oh, we got a little CJ's car and a little bit of Dave's car. Woo.
I don't think you can give me shit anymore. Some of my cars in your car.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hyundai Excel.
Oh man. All right, I think we learned a lot today.
Yep.
All right, thanks for watching. Oh, I forgot. Like, follow, subscribe. We have our YouTube.
Channel.
All right. And the tip line is still tip line, right?
Yeah.
No, we haven't
I
changed
don't
it.
know how to change it.
All right, I don't know how
We
to
need a
change
web
it either.
person to change it.
All right.
Gabe can change it, maybe.
I don't.
Can you
We'll
figure
wait
out
for-
how to
I
We'll
do
wait
it?
for
I
Dave.
still don't like storyline. I don't like it.
Let's not do storyline, but we got to come up with something good. Wait, ask these guys.
Okay,
ask
yes,
these
yes.
guys.
I'll ask you guys real quick. So we have a tip line right now where people can call or email us and say, tell us about your story. But everybody has so far said that's kind of confusing. I don't know what that means, tip line or whatever. So we're thinking about changing the name. What would you guys suggest that we change our tip line to where people can write in and share their story? What would you guys call that? Or what's your thoughts?
A suggestion line.
Suggestion line.
Suggestion line.
Oh, like a suggestion box where you can.
Yeah.
Suggestion. That's 3 syllables. I don't think we can handle it.
Oh, but the thing is that we don't want suggestions because we don't want people telling us how bad of a job we're doing because we know.
That could be it, too.
But we just want people. We just want people to share their stories, through the website. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, or your story. So, what would you think, would be a good way to say, "Hey, come tell your story here," and type it in here and send it in?
That would be like, if you've got a great story or good story to tell us.
That's why I said storyline, but Gabe doesn't like storyline.
Yeah,
I don't.
That
even
almost
think
sounds like fairy tale. So we got to just.
It's story time.
Story time.
Yeah.
Fairy tale line.
How about you,
Plus,
Rick?
you might get.
It's got to be something.
I don't know. I'm just thinking if you do something like that, you might get weird emails from like some little old lady who says, "Oh, my nephew does all this, but he really doesn't do anything."
I would take that because right now no one knows
Yeah.
so I'll take something. Send us your spam mail or whatever.
That's right. Spam us. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Again, Steve, Rick, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
this is
coming
fun.
and joining us. And
Yep.
Dan, thank you.
Thanks,
Gabe,
guys.
thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
And thank you for watching West of Tulsa.